The first week of free agency is done and dusted. How did the New York Jets do?
Inside, and a beauty! Hall running free! Brees Hall inside the 10! He's gonna score!
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Talking Jets with Tigo. My name is Tigo, and yeah, today we're going to be going over the first week of free agency. The first week of free agency tends to be the biggest week of free agency because all of the tier 1 kind of prospects or free agents tend to go really, really quickly. And obviously we know about the legal tampering period that started on Monday and Tuesday where deals could have been made, and then Wednesday they were all made official. So a lot of things happens for the New York Jets. We lost a couple of players. We signed a couple of players. Let's go over it. Let's see how we did. Let's grade our first week of the offseason, and let's see what happened. Let's start with the players that we're saying goodbye to. So I'm going to start with Braxton Berrios because we actually didn't say goodbye to him. We cut him because he didn't want to renegotiate his contract, and I didn't really understand why. I think the Jets were probably asking him to go to a contract at the level that he was at, that he got with Miami. So I guess he wanted to go to Miami. Not really sure, but we did lose him, and he went to Miami. He was joined by fellow New York Jet free agents Mike White and Dan Feeney. The Miami Jets are in full effect. Mike White's wish list. We lost Sheldon Rankins, a big piece of our defense, to the Houston Texans. I've been saying this all offseason. We're going to be losing a lot of our guys to the Texans. I would not be surprised if Quan Alexander went to the Texans, Marcel Harris went to the Texans, like those types of guys, because the Texans are restarting their whole franchise. They've got a new head coach. They've got a whole new thing. And who did they hire as their new head coach? Yep, that's absolutely right. Robert Saleh Light and D'Amico Ryans runs the same system, was his linebackers coach when Robert Saleh was in San Francisco. They run the same system. So why not bring guys who are familiar with the scheme, familiar with everything, and are leaders to the locker room? Makes a ton of sense for Sheldon Rankins. He decided to go get paid. Nate Herbig went to a great spot for him where he can actually start. He's in Pittsburgh, and that sucks because I really liked Nate Herbig, and I was wanting to bring him back. But he went to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's honestly probably going to start him at right guard, and that's awesome for him. And then we lost James Robinson because we refused to tender him, and he went to New England, and Jeff Smith because we also refused to tender him to the New York Giants. And as of right now, those are all of the players that the New York Jets have lost. Who did we sign? Who did we bring back? I think the biggest name that we're going to talk about that we acquired this offseason or are going to acquire is obviously going to be Aaron Rodgers, franchise quarterback for the next couple of years, helping us go compete for a Super Bowl and all of that jazz. That's fantastic. We'll talk about more about Aaron Rodgers once that trade goes through. And there's hundreds of videos by not just me, but by other Jets YouTubers talking about Aaron Rodgers to death. But because of the whole Aaron Rodgers things, a couple of other signings kind of went by the wayside. The first one, let's talk about all the guys that we brought, that we traded for and then we brought back. So we're going to start with the Chuck Clark trade. Joe Douglas, absolute master wizard, was able to trade for Chuck Clark for not this year's 7th, because we don't have a 7th this year, but next year's 7th round pick. Absolutely phenomenal trade, bringing in a starting safety and a guy that honestly I would not be surprised once the Aaron Rodgers' dust has all settled. I would not be surprised if we cut Jordan Whitehead and extended Chuck Clark. That makes a ton of sense. He's a better version of what Whitehead does. He's a sure tackler. He's really, really good in the box. Excellent strong safety. And adding him to the room for a future, like not just this year, but like a future 7th round pick is phenomenal. We bring back Quincy Williams. We all knew that the linebacker room was a little bit weak, and adding a guy like Quincy to that room really, really helps us bringing him back. I think he's on an upwards trajectory, and while he is a little bit older of a guy, I would still consider him a prospect. I don't know if you're fully who you are as a player until you're 30. Really, you're always learning, you're always developing, and especially with a guy like Quincy, he seems like he might be a late bloomer, and I hope that he's going to get better this year. And it also helps us with the negotiation with Quinn and Williams, which is a big deal. Moving on, we brought back Greg Zuerlein. Greg the Leg. I really was hoping that we did this. The contract is really team-friendly. He was solid for us last year. And moving forward, with Aaron Rodgers under center, the expectation is that we're not going to be asking him to kick 60-plus yard field goals or 50-plus yard field goals as much as we did last year. We're going to be much more in the red zone and all of those things. The field goals that he are going to be kicked are the stuff that he was pretty automatic with. So really, really happy we brought him back. We brought Solomon Thomas back, which was fantastic. We need depth on that the defensive tackle room. We lost Nathan Shepard. We lost Sheldon Rankins. Oh, Nathan Shepard went to the Saints. I forgot to mention that one when we lost players. But we lose both of those guys. And then all we had on the team was Quincy Williams and Tanzel Smart. Bringing back Solomon Thomas, while as a rotational depth piece, is still a good enough piece. He's familiar with the scheme. He can be an old head. And he was decent enough that I don't absolutely hate the guy being on the team. Now, that doesn't mean that we're fixed at defensive tackle. We still definitely need to bring talent into the defensive tackle room. I would keep an eye out on guys like Calais Campbell, Linval Joseph, those kinds of guys. They're still out there, and that's an option. We also tendered Bryce Huff with the second-round tender. That means that if any team wants to sign him to a contract and they're willing to give us a second-round pick, he can go to whatever team he wants as long as that team gives us their second-round pick. I'm hoping that he stays with the New York Jets because I love Huff, but having a second-round pick in this year's draft is actually pretty helpful, and it makes a ton of sense why Joe Douglas did this. And we also brought back, this is a little bit of a funny joke, Thomas Morstead, punter. He was actually with Miami last year, but if you do remember when Braden Mann got hurt, not last season, but the season before, we brought Morstead in, and he punted pretty great with us. We're bringing Morstead in. We're going to pretty much fix our punter problems, and Joe Douglas is actually shopping Braden Mann, seeing if we can get a pick for him, and if he can get a pick for Braden Mann, holy crap, I'll build a statue myself for Joe Douglas. And then we brought in 3 new players to the team. Alan Lazard, wide receiver, formerly of the Green Bay Packers, is familiar with Aaron Rodgers, but honestly, I look at this as a Corey Davis replacement. Alan Lazard has played 15 games the last 2 seasons, which is phenomenal when you're looking at a 17-game season, whereas in Corey Davis, I think, has only played like 9 games the last 2, like each of the last 2 seasons, and Alan Lazard has 15 games each of the last 2 seasons. Corey Davis just fails to stay on the field and stay healthy. And then the other problem is that when he is on the field, he tends to kind of just disappear into the nothingness that is the rest of the wide receivers. And when you got guys like Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore, Corey Davis falls by the wayside, and I'd rather have a healthier version of Corey Davis and a guy who's pretty good at the high point, and that's exactly what Alan Lazard is. So I'm really happy with that signing. And we brought in 2 offensive linemen, 2 center guard combos. We brought in Wes Schweitzer. I think he was with the Commanders last year. He's a center guard combo, versatility. He can play all 3 positions on the offensive line. This is great depth, but the way that I also look at it is I think the New York Jets are pivoting to probably getting a center in the draft. And if that's the plan, and if that's the way that we're going to be moving forward, Wes Schweitzer is it just in case all of those guys are gone. This is a worst case scenario. Holy crap, we need a center. There you go. We've got one. But then this is the signing that really intrigued me, and that's Tristan Colon. Tristan Colon is a former Baltimore Raven, also a center guard combo. And the way that I look at Tristan Colon is that we may have found our Nate Herbig replacement. Tristan Colon has some bright spots on his tape, and I think that when you partner him with Keith Carter, I think his game is going to get better. In a knock-on-wood scenario where maybe we lose a couple of our left tackles, just like we did last year, if Dwayne Brown goes down, if Mekhi Becton goes down, and we need to move AVT over to one of the tackle spots, Tristan Colon is probably going to be the guy who's going to get the call. I really think that there is some potential there to have an above-average backup guard in Tristan Colon, and I'm really hoping that that's exactly what he is, and that Keith Carter can take full advantage of what his skill set is and get him performing relatively high. But that's everyone, and I'm really, really interested to hear what you guys think of our free agent acquisitions. Let me know in the comment section below by leaving your sacrifice to the algorithm gods down there. If I had to grade our free agency as of right now, I'm going to say it's a B-. There's still some positions that I think we absolutely need to address. The Aaron Rodgers trade needs to get done. So once all that stuff happens, maybe we can go much, much higher. But until that stuff happens, I'm at a B- right now. Let me know your grades in the comments section below. And last but not least, go Jets.